Welcome to the Coach's Corner podcast, where we interview and you'll hear directly from successful coaches, learning about their journey as well as how they help their clients through their transformational process. Now, if you are a coach or an individual, this podcast will be valuable, providing you with new methodologies, new insights to empower yourself as well as to empower other people. Or perhaps you're a coach or an individual in search of motivation or inspiration. If that's the case, this podcast is perfect for you and you are in the right place. Now remember to subscribe to our channel. If this has helped you, I would love for you to leave a positive review, a positive comment, letting us know that you enjoyed this podcast. Now without further ado, let's dive straight into the show. RJ, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, what an honor, Dwayne. And thanks for those tuning in.
Yeah, absolutely. We got people saying live. I'm seeing that right now. Precious is saying live. Marcel is saying live. So that we got people in the house.
Right
RJ,
on.
yeah, and absolutely. RJ, for those that don't know you, I want to at least let everybody know that it's your actual birthday today.
It is. Yay.
Happy birthday. So you can say hashtag happy birthday in the chat room. Just let RJ know.
You know, it's been so great today. I've heard from friends and family and even some high school buddies of mine have reached out today. So I feel loved.
Absolutely. as you should, my friend. Absolutely. Let's dive straight in. So definitely, I wanted to put this together here. So you get an opportunity to really help those that are going through addictions, as well as helping other coaches really help their clients if they're going through addictions. And at the same time, if there's people that want to reach out to you and connect and learn about what you do a little bit further, by all means, this is an opportunity to do so.
Yes.
But this, ideally, I want to make sure that this provides value to the community in general, because there's a lot of coaches, transformational coaches, life coaches, holistic coaches, the Bitcoin coaches, the list goes on. The list goes on. Yeah. So I want to start off just by, giving you the floor and letting people know what your program is about and what you do.
Sure. Well, I'm an addiction recovery coach, and I've been doing this for 4 years now, even though I go back about 14 years when I recovered from my addiction to alcohol. And so I've been alcohol-free for 14 years. And I decided to go into life coaching and specialize in addiction recovery treatment because I felt like I had something to say to my clients, and that from my own personal experience, I could lead them out of the abyss of their addiction.
Absolutely. That's powerful.
Thank you, sir. Yes, I work one-on-one with my clients. And typically, we can conquer that addiction in 90 days without the big expense and having to take time off work and leaving home that rehab requires.
Wow. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I guess with the addictions, can you let the audience know what kind of addictions that you specialize in? Because, some people might just think it's just one side of things, but there's many different forms of addictions and that people really need to conquer and get over and have that transformation to really, break through from. And what are those, forms?
Well, you're right that there are many addictions. And so I work with clients who suffer from alcohol addiction, drug addiction, addiction to porn, addiction to food. And really, I can help clients too who are addicted to what I call afflictive emotional states. And that's like victimhood and worry and feelings of inadequacy. And, all of these you can hear from people when they're talking because they are so identified to it. Like people will hear, as you have heard, I'm a warrior, or, I feel like I'm a victim. And so they become identified with their addiction.
Wow. Wow. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So like what makes like you unique? Like what's your methodology that you bring clients through? Like how does that process work? Because I'm sure every coach that goes through helps people with a transformation. They've transformed themselves through whatever state they've gone through and helping people. So meaning they have a proven methodology of how they've dealt with it. And because they've dealt with it, they can walk people through that process. So like
Well,
how
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
mine
yeah.
is a combination of experience and training, and I have been a student of addiction for 14 years now. I've studied at the feet of many masters, and my experience too is comes into play because I can say to my clients that I know where you are because I've been there myself. And few coaches and counselors can say that because they have never personally struggled with addiction, so they don't fully understand it.
Absolutely. That's right. That's right. So can you share with us like how does that work? Is it like a program that you follow through with? Do you have materials to help individuals? Like how does that look like from, let's say if I came in, I had an addiction, how would that look?
Well, we get together either through Zoom or in person, and I would ask you, you know, what's coming up for you? What are you dealing with? And this way, I can create a personalized program. So I don't work from treating everybody the same because everybody has different challenges. Everybody is experiencing a little different shade of that addiction that they
Yeah.
are experiencing. And so, we talk first, and then it depends on what the addiction is and where they are. I've got a variety of things that I like to use. I use acceptance and commitment therapy, which is great about using clients' personal values as stars to navigate their life by.
Wow.
And
No, that's
yeah,
awesome.
and also, I'd like to take a look at what's called attachment theory, and this is the relationship template that we form in childhood, being raised by our parents. And there are no perfect parents, and all of us suffer to some degree some of the neglect or maybe even abuse that we suffered in childhood, and that can often leave what I call a core wound. And that wound, we oftentimes, like myself, ran from that and used alcohol in order to numb me out from the pain. And so, all addiction is based in pain, and some of addiction is based in trauma. So I like to take a look at that. I don't have my clients live in that, but we identify it and move from it into the recovery program that I provide. I think the 12 steps are fabulous for creating structure. So I recommend that for my clients, some of whom don't necessarily believe in a higher power. So I use other methods of achieving the same outcomes.
Got it. Got it. That makes sense. Can you let me know? I'm hearing a little bit of echo there. I think maybe is it the microphone below?
It could be. Let me do something quickly. Is this any better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Okay.
Well, I'm still hearing it, but it's still fine.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So that's great. And I really like how you pinpoint those things and really helped us understand those things as well. One thing you explained the attachment theory, but I'd love to know your thoughts on how you visualize and how you understand the concept for the acceptance and commitment theory. Is that what it was called?
Acceptance and commitment therapy?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So this is an approach that has been well researched, and it basically has 6 core practices. And I'll just mention a few of them. One is contact with the present moment. That so often, even those who do not suffer from addiction find themselves toggling between the future and the past, spending very little time in the present. But the present moment, as we know, is where our power is, and the power to change our lives is found in the present rather than in the future, which is filled with worry, and the past, which is filled with regret.
Yes.
So we take the present and we move forward in that present moment. One of the things that non-addicts too suffer from is they get wrapped around the axle of their thinking, and so we are pulled into the future and the past too, because we have all this brain chatter, and so oftentimes, we wish that those thoughts would wash off our backs like water off a duck, kind of a thing, and some of them are really sticky. And so there's a technique called diffusion where we can separate from our thoughts. And there's another part of acceptance and commitment therapy called the observer self. And this is the kind of the spiritual side of it, where we can step out of ourselves and view our lives as kind of like a drama on the stage. And we can choose to walk up the stairs of the stage and get all involved in the drama of our lives, or we can choose to step off the stage into our observer selves and take a seat, in the auditorium and just watch as these crises and challenges and people in our lives come and go on the stage. And this way we can get more of an objective view of how we are relating to other people, how we're relating to ourselves.
And I think that's so powerful what you said there, because it's like you take a step back, right? And you kind of observe what's going on.
Yes.
Because what happens if you get lost into the day-to-day, just things in your mind in terms of this, in this case, addiction, you're in it, and ideally, I'm just speaking from what you're telling me right now. Obviously, I'm not a professional by all means like yourself, but it makes sense where you take a step back to really observe what you're going through and what you're really experiencing and how you can really step out of that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And reduce the stress.
Yeah. Wow.
Because stress is one of the key factors in either our continued use or our relapse back into addiction.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you are enjoying this right now and you're actually watching live or perhaps watching the replay, I want you to hashtag me below. Let me know that you're actually tuned in, and let me know that, and let Richard know that you're actually enjoying this. This is awesome stuff. I really appreciate it, Richard. So taking back, looking back at your life and how you've gone through, because ideally what you've gone through is similar to what others are facing when it comes to the addiction. When it came to you being in that state, what was the external things and struggles that you had? And what were the internal struggles that you had?
When I was struggling with my addiction,
Yeah.
Actually my first time drinking alcohol was a euphoric time. I was just 8 years old, and my parents had this ritual of coming home from church on Sundays and early afternoon enjoying a small glass of sherry. They were not big drinkers. Yeah. And as an 8-year-old, I was curious about what they were drinking and what it tasted like. And to my surprise, my parents poured both me and my sister, who was 3 years older than me, a glass of sherry. And I remember drinking that. It was a beautiful fall day, and this was in Michigan. And the leaves were just crying out to us to play in them. And so we went outside and we were playing in these leaves together. And I just remember how warm and how connected and euphoric I felt from the sherry. And my sister and I played in these leaves and just had the best time. And the thing is that oftentimes when we have a euphoric experience with a drug of any kind, especially when we're young, we end up chasing that rainbow, that euphoria for the rest of our lives. And for me, the magic of alcohol came back to me when I got my license at 16. And I lived 11 miles outside of a town of 1,700 people. And the recreation in town was drinking. And so we would find people to buy for us, and then we'd go out on the back roads, and we would drink and cruise around. And, and I was just amazed at the what alcohol did for me. I was introverted, and I was a lonely teenager, and it was like stepping into a superhero outfit. It's like Peter Parker, the shy and troubled young man, dons on the Spider-Man suit and becomes absolutely radiant and brilliant. And that's how I felt. It was like stepping into a superhero costume. And I just felt this beautiful confidence, and I felt outgoing. And so that was my identity when I was drinking. And of course I wanted that back. And so I would repeat this every weekend until it became a habit, and like a lot of addiction, it starts off with it being nothing but fun, and then it becomes fun with problems, and then it becomes nothing but problems.
Yeah.
And that's what happened to me in my mid 40s when I hit rock bottom.
Wow, we got comments here. Precious and Marcel are saying me. And then also Levette Grand is also saying you both are awesome.
Oh, thank you guys.
This is awesome. So can you tell us, when you hit that age, I think it was 40 you had mentioned, what was that light bulb that went off where you discovered like this is not what you should be doing to continue your life or to continue with what was that moment, that defining moment for you?
Well, I'd taken a year off work. I had been working as a public school teacher. Took a year off work to go into business. I was in business with two other partners. Within 6 months, I get a call from one of my partners saying that the other partner had invested all our working capital in the stock market and lost everything. So I knew that we were out of business, and I still had, this was in January, so I still had February, March, April, May, June, July, August before I could get back to teaching, if I could even get back in. And during that time, I basically closed the blinds on life and was captive to my addiction. And my heart goes out, Dwayne, to those of you, your listeners, because COVID has imposed its own isolation for all of us, right? But the alcoholic or drug addict, that is compounded, that sense of loneliness and isolation, because we already felt that before the epidemic, and it just impacted us so severely, and so many of my fellow addicts are out there still suffering. And I want to say it's not too late to begin that first day of recovery. There is hope for you.
Absolutely. Thank you for giving that reassurance, because I know a lot of people feel like they're just stuck, in this cycle.
Yes, and there's a sense of hopelessness and despair. Like myself, many of your listeners have tried to become sober on their own and have failed time and again. I would have a few days where I thought, wow, this is fantastic. I've done it. And I'm a good problem solver, but I couldn't solve the problem of my alcoholism. But I'd get back kind of feeling like I was on the road and everything was going to be great. It's all rainbows and lollipops. And then a few days later, something would happen in my life, and I'd drive my car right back into the ditch and pick up a drink.
Wow. So I guess it seems like, what is that wall that people come against? Like, obviously for you, it was, wanting to get back into it. But let's say for those people that may have behavioral addictions or emotional addictions, What is that thing that they honestly, keep, coming against it in terms of like a barrier or a wall or separation for them not to get freed from that addiction? Like what would that be?
Well, I would say that the big issue that fuels any kind of an addiction, whether it's substance or behavioral, comes from that core wound that we have experienced often in our childhood, but it can happen later in life. And that wound is crying out for healing, but instead of turning inward and doing the things that we need in order to heal it, we become basically fugitives from ourselves. We run away from the problem, and in so doing, we never come to terms with actually facing it. And if we can face it, we have a chance of healing it. And that core wound still keeps crying out to us, whether we turn around and start walking to it with curiosity. It's something that will continue to cry out for attention. And for me, it took me about, oh my gosh, 2 decades to finally come around to facing that pain. And I had all sorts of things happen to me in order to, I think what God was trying to say is, I want you to work on this problem. And one way that my core wound cried out to me was through debilitating physical pain. I tore a rotator cuff in a drunken fall, and it was super painful. I had surgery, and I had weeks and weeks and weeks of recovery, rehab, and I was still saying to myself, I might have a drinking problem. And then a few years later, I fell on a oak chair and broke 7 ribs, but I was so drunk that I went to bed and I slept. And it wasn't until 5 a.m. that I woke my wife up to my screams, and she took me to the hospital. And there I found out that I had broken 7 ribs. And I couldn't even be honest with the nurse when she said, was there some drinking involved? And I said, oh, I may have had 1 or 2 beers. And in fact, I was just absolutely wasted.
Wow.
And, yes. And then in another way that my core wound tried to get my attention is another fall, and I broke my front tooth off. And the last time that I went through this debilitating physical pain was in another fall where I actually ruptured a disc in my back, and this was the time that I finally woke up, and I decided I have to do something, because the pain just stayed with me.
Wow. So how, you said usually individuals that are going through these things, they sometimes may experience similar pains like this. Is that there a wake up moment to say, like, for other individuals as well, where they experience this epiphany, or if you will, to really tap into what they really need to do? Is that the case?
Yes, and I believe that there are moments, there are opportunities where we just get to the point where we say, I'm sick of being sick and tired. I'm sick of the effects of this addiction. For me, I was facing bankruptcy. My wife was thinking about leaving me. I would lose my home. I would lose my job. And sometimes, unfortunately, when we are driving around the city, we see the devastating effects of people who must lose everything in order for them to finally get the treatment that they need. And some people still don't get it. But those people are oftentimes the homeless that we see with signs.
Yes.
And so hopefully we don't get to that point. And by the grace of God, I did not have to get there, but I was feeling like that was going to happen if I just kept letting myself go down this dangerous road.
Thank God.
I do thank God.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank God for that. I really wanted to ask you, so like now going through this, this path, being able or experiencing these things that weren't pleasant, and you not even knowing until those, your wife is able to tell you and, be able to take care of you. And she's a great lady, someone that's able to actually look over you and help you in that way. She's awesome, phenomenal. For other people going through stuff like that, how do they get out? Like, where do they transition? How do they transition? When do they transition? You told me, and we were talking just now, and you said now is the right time.
Yes.
How explain to me how that transition is made?
Well, we need to reach out, and that's the thing. We need to come to the point where we say we're powerless over our addiction, and that's where the humility begins. This is where we can finally be honest with ourselves and say, I can't do this alone. And so reaching out is what I recommend, and getting somebody that you trust in your life that can be a coach to you. And one of the things that was just such a breakthrough for me in my own recovery was realizing that God's grace can become incarnate in the form of a sponsor or a coach, and God working through that coach or sponsor, He can lead you through the help of that sponsor or coach. Out of the abyss and to a place of wonder and awe beyond addiction.
That's absolutely powerful. Thanks for sharing that. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So that's awesome. So like when someone gets to this addiction, you said to, be able to be transparent with other people, someone that you trust. And I'm so glad you said that. Yes. Because in your weakest moments or in anybody's weakest moments, people can be taken advantage of because they're in a vulnerable state.
Right.
And because they're vulnerable, they don't know. They don't know. So I guess for someone that may not, in their eyes right now, they may not trust anybody or anything like that. What are the resources that people have available to them, as well as a coach, obviously? But like, what are those things out there that people can really reach out to?
Well, I would recommend working one-on-one with somebody. Okay. Because that is where you get the personalized attention. And, working through support groups like AA or Smart Recovery is wonderful. It supplements the work that my clients and I do together.
That's awesome.
And so there's a lot of people out there, though, that feel uncomfortable about attending AA meetings or NA meetings or sexual addiction meetings because they're public. You can be seen stepping out of your car, walking into a support group, and people are afraid that if they are seen and word gets out that they'll lose their job or lose their clients, lose the respect of friends, and so I recommend that they get that support that they need, and oftentimes that comes just through a one-on-one work with me, and then they may grow the confidence to step out and get support from a larger community of fellow survivors. It's kind of like we're as the AA Big Book says, we are fellow survivors of an ocean liner wreck. And so here we are, in this big raft, and we are survivors of our addiction. And that is our support group. And those are our people.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, can you tell me now, now that you've told me who those people are, can you tell me what your experience was through this transformation? So, like you now coming out and transitioning to overcoming this addiction. Like, how did that look for you coming out?
Well, it was beautiful because as I was telling you, there was a euphoria that I got from drinking alcohol, and I realized that after I started facing my own inner demons, that I was experiencing a euphoria in my recovery, and I just had all of this energy, and I had all of this confidence, and I had all of this joy, and I could see the evidence of my recovery in the things that my friends would say to me, in the things that my family would say to me, the things that my colleagues would say to me. And it's like,
Wow.
we're seeing something in you, and it is a beautiful thing. And it gave me so much strength. And I just thought, this is even better than drinking. This is absolutely what I need. And all the while, I was healing that core wound that I experienced in childhood. And that core wound was abandonment and feelings of shame. And I think Brene Brown does a great job in differentiating between guilt and shame. She says guilt is that we did something bad, and shame is that we are something bad. And so, it's understandable why addicts get to the point of isolation in engaging in their habits, because they begin to feel, well, they have felt this way for a long time. They feel that they are bad people, and bad people should be shunned. Bad people should be punished. So we end up, in a sense, being the punisher and the punisheree, or how would you say that?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So you saw like your life, become better. The people around you saw your life developing into something great, and
Yes.
to really that embellished greatness. So like, tell me how it usually looks for your clients. That like, what do you usually see inside of them, where a transformation has taken place, where you've done your due diligence and your job, and that's obviously where you find your most fulfillment. So we'd love to
Yes.
know, how does it look for you in helping those individuals that you coach?
Well, it's a recovery process. I think of our lives as addicts as being a house of cards, and sooner or later the wind comes along and it buries us underneath that house of cards, as the house of card implodes on us. And my job is to help the client clear the wreckage so that they can finally embrace themselves and their situation.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love to hear that. I love to hear that. So, like, before we actually, end this podcast interview, I would love to give you an opportunity to really explain to someone, or someone that's going through, this troubling time. I know we've said many things that they should do in this call, but if you were to summarize it, just in a quick summarization, how would you put it to that person listening?
Well, I'll tell you this. I heard it about a year ago, this statement about addiction. And this person said, the opposite of addiction is not abstinence, but connection. And I think that is so true, because we as addicts come from a place of isolation, as we've talked about. And when I see my clients begin to heal their relationships and deepen those relationships, and their sense of joy in their life is so palpable. They are doing so much better at work. Things that seem to baffle them, they seem to have a new understanding and intuition about how to do things finally. And so there is healing, relationship building. And as I said, the opposite of addiction is not abstinence, but connection. And they begin to connect to other people as they have never done before.
Wow.
And this is the beautiful thing. I remember this, Duane. One of the greatest compliments I've ever received is I had a client who was starting her yoga practice, and this was during COVID. And so she would have yoga sessions in the park because her fitness studio was closed down. And I was waiting for her on this park bench, and she starts walking over with her daughter. And she comes over to me and she says, "Ashley, I would like you to meet RJ, the man who saved my life."
Wow.
That just made me know that what I'm doing is important. What I'm doing is life-changing and transformative.
That's powerful.
It was a powerful moment.
Oh my goodness, that is powerful. Wow. I'm moved by that. That's awesome. I really want to let you know, Richard, there are people listening to this that are either, coaches that help people with addictions, or people that need help and know that you can recognize just from this interview that you are the one that could help them. I want you to give everybody just an opportunity of how they can find you, how they can get to know a little bit more about what you offer, how your program looks, and how they can get in touch with you.
Sure. You can email me. My email address is FinalFreedomCoaching@gmail.com, or you can send me a text. That number is 720-842-1111. And we can meet for a free session. I'll find out more about what's going on in your life around addiction. You can find out more about my approach that will help you to conquer your addiction.
Awesome. RJ, it was a pleasure having you on. I really do appreciate it.
Oh, it was great being with you, Duane. And thank your listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. Thank you to everyone listening as well. Thanks so much, RJ, and we'll connect.
Great.
All right.
Thanks again, Duane.
No problem. My pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this interview, whether you're listening on any of our social platforms. Perhaps you're in our Facebook group, perhaps you are listening on one of our podcast platforms. Wherever you're listening, I hope you enjoyed. But do us a favor and leave a positive review, letting us know that you actually enjoyed this and this actually was valuable to you. Whether you're an individual or whether you're an actual coach looking for some guidance, inspiration, we want to know that this podcast is valuable to you so that we can continue to make more and to inspire more people. Hope you have an empowering day and an empowering week. I'll see you in the next episode.